Hello, everyone. Welcome to BizzTalk World's talk show presented by ClickAway Creators. Today, we have Mr. Hari TN with us. He has spent his last 19 odd years as part of leadership teams of high growth startups in domain as varied as business process outsourcing, information technology, financial services, consumer internet, and e-commerce as well. And before this, for 14 years, he was associated with Tata Steel as well. First 11 years, I was as an engineer, and then so on and so forth. Each of the startup that Hari was associated with saw successful exit. I mean, to name a few, I would give you some great names like Daksh, TaxiForSure, which was acquired by Ola, I believe, and Bigbasket, which was it was then occupied by Tata, if I'm not wrong. So these were small things that I tried to cover so that we can at least start the conversation from somewhere. Without taking much of your time and without any ado, let me introduce you to the man himself. Hi, Hari. How are you doing?
Hi, Thakur.
Hi. I hope you and your loved ones are doing safe right there. I mean, before we start this session.
Yes, of course.
Great. Good to hear that. All right. So, Hari, I've tried my level best to cover, the entire detail. I mean, not the entire detail, but some big points, some star points. But it would be great if our viewers can understand more about you in your own words. Like, if you can brief us about your journey so far.
Great. Thanks, Sagar. So basically, I grew up in a small town in state of Orissa. My father used to work in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. So, once you grow up in a small town, you remain a quintessential small town boy for the rest of your life. And that's what precisely I am in some ways. I studied mechanical engineering at IIT Madras. It was a dream come true for me in some ways. I was always passionate about science and engineering and followed this up with an MBA from IIM Calcutta and finished that in 1988. And the reason for my doing an MBA was not really to get a foothold outside of engineering, but more about getting to understand how organizations work a little more holistically. And started my career, at Tata Steel, where I worked as a mechanical engineer on the shop floor, helping build coke ovens, steel melting shops, blast furnaces, and the complete works.
Mhm.
At some point of time, when the company was going through a crisis, we decided, that it was important to restructure the company, right size the workforce, create the right kind of culture, because Tatas were known as an organization or a group that encouraged lifelong employment, not just lifelong employment, but also provided employment to the children of employees if you work for a certain number of years. But post-liberalization, we had to revisit some of these basic philosophies. And we also hired McKinsey to help us think through some of these challenges. And I was part of the core team. And the project was essentially a human capital project. And I then realized that, you can make a very strategic impact on an organization through,
Mhm.
human capital, especially an organization that is going through a serious transition. Human capital is a very important component of helping it make the transition. And startups are always going through a transition. The last 20 years of my life, almost 20 years, have been with a bunch of high growth startups, I would say. And every single of these five startups saw very successful exits, saw spectacular scaling, I would say, without the wheels coming off. In the
Mhm.
last 6 years, I decided to share many of my learnings of the last 20 years in the form of, books. And I've been writing extensively on different platforms and felt that, some of these learnings could be useful to younger entrepreneurs so that they can, from these learnings, ensure that they don't have to repeat the mistakes that we repeated. Some of the books that went on to become bestsellers, which had helped companies scale, was about Pony to Unicorn, scaling a startup sustainably. And this was Saying No to Jugaad, which is the story of Big Basket. So I've been working with, late stage VCs, early stage VCs. So very intensely a part of the startup ecosystem of the country.
Yeah.
So that broadly, I would say, defines who I am and captures my journey in some ways.
I was actually about to cover the, you being an author, the later part of the session, but yeah, it's good we cover it here. I mean, you have written, I guess, 7 books till now, if I'm
Yes.
not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
great. So I guess our viewers can really learn about this, I mean, because our audience is all about startups and entrepreneurs and business professionals. So we'll put these, I mean, we have this on Amazon and Kindle as well, I believe.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so we'll put the links in the description so that our viewers can easily find them. directly here. Uh, Thank you very much, Hari, for explaining or giving us great insights about your profile. I mean, you haven't mentioned some great achievements of yours, which I really don't want you to miss. So, for our viewers, LinkedIn actually identified him as one of India's top voices for 3 years in a row, which was 2016, 2017, and 2018, I believe. That's
I
right,
think so.
right? Factually. You think so? Yeah, that's factually right. I have my facts right with me. All right, great. That's good to hear. Moving further, I mean, because you have been part of so many startups, and startups see so many ups and downs, and there are so many different sort of people that you get, and hirings, and this removal of individuals, all these crazy things happening around everywhere. You must have managed teams, of great size, having a experience of your level. What's your team management approach? What's your people management approach? How do you really manage people? How you really manage team and let them know that that's the approach and that's where they have to work, they have to head towards it?
So, Sagar, I think what I typically do, maybe I'll share that, is I spend a lot of time teaching my team with a lot of intensity, especially in the early stages when someone is recruited and I begin to work with that individual very closely. I spend some time teaching that person with a lot of intensity. And teaching can be about, alignment of values. It's about thought processes. It's about frameworks. It's about, problem solving. I think basically I am looking for some degree of assurance that the people I work with, even if I'm not present, would think about issues in a somewhat similar way as I would have thought about it. They would have asked the same questions that I might have asked in a similar situation. So, teaching people about values, about the way of looking at problems, problem solving, frameworks is what I do with a lot of intensity. After that, I begin to step back a little. I don't work with them with a lot of intensity after that.
Mhm,
So, and my approach is different strokes for different folks,
mhm,
which is some people for a long time you need to work with intensity. For with some people you can just step back and completely let them loose, and they would just do all the right things when empowered completely. So empower some people who are empowerable completely, and with others work closely, follow up a little bit if required, set the pace. And one thing I do is set the pace, which is that I expect things to be done quickly,
mhm,
emails to be responded quickly, phone calls to be returned. So it's about work ethic and speed of making things happen. So I emphasize the importance of speed because I think ultimately in large organizations which are scaling rapidly, startups, agility is an important component, speed and agility. So I insist that everyone that I work with demonstrate a sense of speed and agility in everything that they do. Allow
mhm,
people to make mistakes as long as the mistakes have been done with the right intent, with the intent of learning things, when they have tried to execute, when they have tried to make things happen, when they've taken initiative to do things. When they make mistakes, I'm very happy with that. In fact, I am very upset with people who don't do things and hence don't make mistakes. So I'm very happy to encourage people who make mistakes and they learn from their mistakes. So I encourage people to learn from their mistakes. And even when they make mistakes, I don't easily intervene. Even though, some of my senior colleagues may expect that I would intervene, I know that if I intervene, then they would not learn the lesson
mhm,
and they would feel very demotivated. So I stay back, allow them to learn the lesson on their own, especially if they're smart people. I don't intervene. And my few interventions with smart people are very, very strategic. Only in strategic situations or in times of a crisis I intervene. My entire approach about people management, about thinking about people is after working with me, can they write a new CV every 6 months? If they can't write a new CV every 6 months, then I haven't done my job. So I think that's the way I look at it, which is the importance of writing a new CV, which is that, and writing a new CV is very metaphorical
yeah.
because when you think of writing a new CV, you think about, have I learned something? Can I write something very new? And you can do that only if you have learned something. So I think along those lines, which is, can they write a new CV every 6 months?
That's a leader's approach, I believe. I'd like to underline my line here.
Yeah.
That's a leader approach.
Mhm.
And that's really good to hear. I mean, I hope that viewers that are hearing about this can learn, especially the experienced one who are handling teams around them, and really I mean, you know how the organizations are really working. There are several startups who are going great, but they're the inside of the people are really toxic and the environment is really toxic. So I guess you need to really work out there as well.
Yeah.
You have been an angel investor as well. Sorry, out of everything, if I may ask, what an angel investor looks, before investing in an idea or in a venture.
So I won't be able to comment on what other angel investors look for. I can tell you what I look for.
Sure.
I invest only in people that I know well. I have made a few exceptions, but in those few exceptions, I've got to know people very quickly. So
Mhm.
typically, I would invest in ventures that are, started by people I know well.
Okay.
So, and they have to be friends. And there are times when I make investments, even though I'm not sure about whether the idea will succeed or not. In that particular situation, my entire approach is to be a real angel, which is a friend of mine, somebody I like, somebody I trust, is starting something new. And why shouldn't I be the person backing this individual? So for instance, if someone in my family, my daughter, starts something, I will certainly back her without questions. I might provide a lot of inputs, encouragement, point out obvious flaws in the approach, but I will certainly back her up. And that's my approach with angels as well, which is they need to be friends, people I like, people I respect. Having said that, I think my broad approach to angel investment is I should intuitively believe that they're solving the right kind of problem. I am not one who gets into analysis paralysis. Intuitively, I should get a quick sense that they're solving a problem, and that's an important problem. And they are in it for the right reasons because they believe that problem is important to be solved. So I think they should be solving a right problem, and I should know them and like them. I think those are the broadly the only two criteria.
So you are really going by the term, the angel investor. You're really
Yes.
going as an angel. All right, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Coming back to your profile, let's talk about your profile again. So as we talked about, I mean, you showed your two books again. I guess I have been to saying no to Jugaad, the making of Big Basket, quite some. I mean, it has been some time, but I have been to that book, I believe. You have written seven books, and they have been like leading in their respective categories every time, if I'm not wrong, and few of them was bestsellers as well on Amazon. I have these facts ready with me. So let me ask you now, because you are an active author. Uh, what makes a good author, or what makes for a good author?
Right. So I would say that, clarity of thought, clear thinking is a prerequisite for writing well. So I would say a good content, any kind of good content is a combination of clear thinking and great storytelling. You need both. You can't have great storytelling without clear thinking or clear thinking without great storytelling. Both you need to happen. And I would say great storytelling is articulating something in a way that is both interesting and clear. A 6-year-old, and I'm using a 6-year-old as a metaphor here, it's somebody who is a lay person who does not understand the domain very well,
Mhm.
should still be able to carry away insights and learn a lot from what you write. There should be no jargon. Even if you're writing about technology, it should be written in a way that somebody who is not very tech savvy, not very familiar with technology, still carries away insights from what you write.
Mhm.
So I would say you should be able to write in a way that a lay person can understand what you have written. So I think that's
Excellent.
the very critical component. The other one is that you should be able to understand what a reader is looking for. Who's your target audience? What kind of readers are they? What are they looking for?
Mhm.
And sometimes, for instance, they might be skeptical about something. I mean, you're writing about that. It's important that you state upfront what they're potentially skeptical about. You bring out that skepticism so that they are more receptive as they read. Because upfront, you have stated to them, I understand that you are skeptical about a couple of things, and these are those. And I was skeptical about it myself. But
Mhm.
as I progress in life, I realize that there's a lot of substance in this. Then they begin to relate to you that you have gone through the same problems of skepticism about a particular topic. And then they will read you with a lot of openness. So I think that's a very important component. I think the last component is that if you are writing about people, if the book is about people and there is stories about people, write those stories with a lot of empathy,
Mhm.
write those stories with a lot of love for the subject. That love for the subject, that empathy for the subject must be there. So I think if that is not there, if you're writing it as a bystander, then there's no fun. The feelings that you have should come out. The love for the subject, the love for that character, that individual, I think is very, very important. So I think those things make for a good author.
That's a very passionate answer, I would say. I mean, I hope that I believe that you must have read, I mean, this book called *Sapiens*. I mean,
Yes, yes, I
yeah.
have.
So yeah, so my father was not known, he was not so much into reading, of course. That to English reading, he was not so much into that. But I asked him to read *Sapiens*, and it's so beautifully written. I mean, the
Mhm.
journey of human evolution, it
Yes,
just engulfs you, and it's
yes,
so mesmerizing. I mean, the way it starts, the way it ends, it's really wonderful. And I guess, I mean, although I'm not an author, but from the standpoint of buying, I mean, as a consumer or as a customer, I would say the title also matters. I mean, when
yes,
you
of
say,
course.
saying no to jugaad, the making of big basket, when you see, I mean, these jugaad words, it's like, yeah, it's something kind of desi, and then it's big basket, then I guess, yeah, of course, I should go through it. That's my take. However, as I said, I'm not an author. I'm just a small reader. Okay, all right. So, Hari, you've been doing so many things in your career. I mean, being associated with startups and then working with Tata Steels and all these sort of things, these gradually increments. Uh, how do you really spend your time? I mean, I'm not talking about the management right now. I'm just telling you, how do you really manage, or sorry, how do you really spend your time right now, or how in this journey, how you really figured out what to do and what not to do?
So I think, Sagar, I, I think the way I currently spend my time is I do many things. I multitask continuously. So
Hmm.
I'm the CHRO for a fast growing company called Bigbasket, which
Hmm.
is a unicorn, which is large as well.
Hmm.
I actually am associated very closely with Fundamentum, Arkham, which is a late stage and early stage VC, multiple accelerators. So I think you need to manage your time well. So I am able to multitask, do different things, and am able to manage my time well. As a
Hmm.
result of which, I think I'm making reasonable impact in everything I do. And I do talk shows like this. When you call me, I don't say no. I don't say no because I know that somebody will listen to it. And even if five people benefit, even if five people say that I got one aha moment from this conversation, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
It's worth spending my time. So that's the way I spend my time. I help people selflessly. In fact, helping people selflessly has become an obsession for me over the years, over the last several years.
Hmm.
In the beginning, I used to think that I should just focus on what's good for me, focus on the company that I'm working for. But then I realized over the last 6 years that as you help more and more people, you get a lot of satisfaction. There are a lot of people out there who just need that little help, who need that little push, who need that little encouragement, who need that little answer to a problem they're grappling with. And if you do it for them, they become successful, and nothing can be more satisfying than making other people successful. So I think I've been very excited about that. And gradually I have realized that, you know what, if you help other people, someday people will come back to help you when you want it.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't matter actually. But that is a reality, which is that if you help people when the day you need it, when you're told, when you're young, heard Panchatantra stories and a lot of other fables which told you that if you do good, others will do good to you. And
Hmm.
that's really true. You have to experience it to feel it. So that's the way I spend my time, helping a lot of people and helping a lot of strangers, and with whom some of whom I do become friends eventually.
All right. Okay. Last question, I would say, let's have a fun question here. You have been part of, some serious board meetings that goes on into these sort of unicorns and these big ventures. Um, is there some fun out there? I mean, is there some fun out there in the boardroom?
Yes, certainly there is fun. So don't think that boards are always comprised of very smart people and that there is always
Yeah,
very
you see
serious stuff.
a black or red shirt and then a tie and a blazer, and then everybody's sitting and talking about something, holding a pen and seeing some graphs, something like that, like the clip arts that we have in our mind.
So I'm not sure if I fully understood, but you exactly. But the point is that yes, the first question, which is about Are there light moments? Of course, there are light moments. Is everybody smart in every board? Not at all. There are some very dumb people who are part of boards because of various reasons.
Yeah.
So I would say that, a board meeting is like any other meeting. It's just like, any other meeting. The same funny things can happen. The same dumb opinions can get expressed. So board meeting to me is like any other meeting. And there are a lot of pulls and pressures, people coming at a particular problem from different perspectives. They have their own vested interests, they have their own private agendas, they have their own egos, they have their own various things. So I think all those things are no different from any other meeting.
All right, that's I guess that would help people like me who haven't really seen a board meeting. I mean, a real board meeting in that segment. Let's end this with the last word from you, which I would say you said that you generally invest in people who you know. Um, can I mean, is there a possibility that you can spend in ideas that I mean with the people that you really don't know, but the idea really clicks you?
I can certainly spend time. So, for instance, hundreds of people write to me on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
but most of the time, sometimes I don't have the time. I would say most often. But sometimes, if that idea comes to me, is referred to me by somebody I know, then I'm more willing to spend some time. So,
Okay.
for instance, if a stranger writes to me on LinkedIn, I think sometimes there is something very catchy, something which attracts you, something which makes you feel that it's worth listening to.
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
those circumstances, I do it. But if somebody I know well introduces me to a person with an idea, I always end up listening. So I think getting the right introduction reference is very critical, and that's not true with me. It's true for everybody else. If you approach somebody through someone they know, then the likelihood of them listening to you is much higher.
That's practically fair. That's really practically fair. All right. I guess we had a wonderful session today. I mean, talking about your journey, the investment, and then some fun things as well. All right. So I guess we should sum up with some thank you notes. So thank you very much, Hari, for joining us for this session. And we of course look forward to having a chat with you again in the future on some of the trending topics in the international business industry, and of course on investors and their approach as well. And for our viewers, if you like this chat, please like and share and subscribe to ClickAway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And you have more coming in from industry leaders like Mr. Hari T N. This was Sagar for BizzTalk World, signing off.